There we go. That feels a whole lot better, man. So much more comfortable. I got my music vibing and I'm chilling. So I wanted to get back to talking about this book and this story, which was Dark Disciple, man, the Star Wars book, right? Which I did on audio, and I'm just setting up my TikTok. Just might as well do my stream, right? And Dark Disciple, man, like this was it was a full-on like kind of epic drama, man. I gotta give it to it, man. Like this is excellent writing. I don't know who the author is on this one. I forget, even though they interview the author afterwards. Like it's she's someone in the Lucas family. I think it's someone in the Lucas family who started writing for these and wrote this series and really got into doing Asajj Ventress, right? So overall, I got to the end of this book. And overall, I have to say, I enjoyed the book. Like I did. I absolutely enjoyed it pretty much from beginning to the end. Like it got a little sappy at the end, but you're having a funeral and all that stuff. It's a little bit, kissy face and all that stuff, but it's good. Like overall, the book is good. You get everything. I think like if you're just, an action fan, I think it's there. I think like the breadth of like who you get to, as a fan, like it focuses on Asajj Ventress, it focuses on Dooku, it focuses on Vos, right? Quinlan Vos, right? Quinlan Vos. And but you get a lot of exposure to Anakin, or Anakin at this phase. Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan is heavily in this, right? Yoda, the Council overall, like it's good exposure to the Council. And we get a little bit of Sidious in this as well. So it's a very well-rounded story, and it takes you through a couple of like very different lenses of what goes on in this world, like how it actually works out. Like the first thing really that I have to say is the development of Asajj Ventress. Like this is actually kind of a classic story, because she goes from being an absolute villain to being cool, to being a villain again, to being like iconic lore, iconic in like her level of commitment to doing the right thing, like resisting the Force, right? Like she became like super important in that. And she is, because it allows us to understand. Like it was a progression for her. Because she still had endured all this incredible suffering, right? Like that's still like the story of her life is actually by all the suffering that she went through, right? That like she never gets away from that, okay? She never gets away from that. But she she starts to understand that continuing the cycle doesn't lead to her ever getting any relief, right? Like that's essentially what she says. Like she sees the Jedi for what they are, right? She sees the dark side, for what it is, right? And what revenge is, what hatred is. And what she gives us is actually like a full-on character arc. Like she ironically starts as a person who she starts off understanding the dark side more than anyone else. Remember, she had been the apprentice of Dooku, right? And she was abandoned by Dooku. She got betrayed by the Sith, because the Sith do have a way of throwing people off. So she's very cynical. She's very pragmatic. She's operating as a bounty hunter. She's a solo act, right? But beneath all that, like, is genuine person who wants connection. That's kind of the irony of it. Like, so going into it, she does understand the dark side of the Force better than anyone else, right? And by the end of it, she begins to understand that revenge itself is poison, like how much his hatred consumes you, like maintaining this hatred consumes you. And because the target here, like this is all about Dooku, and she understands him better than anyone else. So she knows what the dark side feels like. So it's odd that throughout this, she becomes the person who was the moral compass at the end of the story. right? That's who she is. She is the most, by the end of this tale, she goes from being hunted and wanted by the Jedi for crimes that they would pardon, to reoffending some more crimes, to being at the end of it the moral compass of this entire setting. So that's what her arc is. So if you enjoy, like, hey, yeah, let's have a good, well-written storyline with characters that are well developed and have meaning and thought behind them and nonsense like that, it's a great story on that level, right? They get all your good battles and all that stuff in there as well. So, but this is giving you some perspective. Like, this is some framing work for understanding who the dark side is. Like, if you need to understand who the dark side is, you got to kind of start talking to Ventress, like someone who's a little more conscious of the dark side, because there's some things that we learn about the dark side here, man. The dark side is a lot more insidious than what you guys even think, even when it's messing with you. Like, you're messing with the dark side of the Force, and the dark side of the Force is messing with you right back. It's not like it's not, the dark side might pretend like it's not interesting, like you're messing with somebody here, it's like looking away. Like, that's what my dog does. Like, when I'm gonna try to mess with him, he acts like he's not paying attention to me, so that then he can be like, "Arr!" Right? He likes to do that. He always likes feign like he's not interested. That's what the dark side of the Force is doing to you, right? It turns it into, you have to keep feeding it scenario, right? And that's where she starts to flip, because she does experience, like, genuine love. She does get genuine love from Quaylen Voss. She actually does get genuine love. Like, so this is a Sith, like, she had been, when she went through all her stuff, it was as younger person, so she had all this, like, venom, and that's what the Sith, like, leveraged off of her, right? So she moves from that to literally sacrificing herself to save someone else. This is, like, why she does it, right? And everything that she laid ground for, and she, like, they play her death as this, like, it's tragic. Obviously, it is. That's the best way I can describe this character. Is by the time the book ends, her death itself is a tragedy. That's not something I would have expected. That takes a lot of work, and it genuinely felt real, right? So that's where we're at with that. Okay, Quaylen Voss is also reveals something deep to us about the dark side. Like, he went in on the dark side, so you start understanding who the dark side is, man. And the dark side, man, when you call yourself Sidious, like, man, Sidious is right, man. They just, like, nonstop. Because, like, what he proves is that the dark side doesn't feel like it's evil, right? It's not that. It's not that you wake up and you're like, man, you know what? I was good yesterday. I'm just gonna be evil today, man. Forget it, right? That's not what's happening. That never happens to Dark Side Force. What it does is it convinces you that you're still a hero, and that what you're doing is what's necessary. That's where it changes. It doesn't shift you to believing that you're actually a villain or an evil person or even bad. What you're doing is what has to be done. That's how the dark side convinces. That's how it gets you to move, right? Because he got to the point where he was telling himself, honestly, that I'm doing the only thing I can to save us, right? I love her. I have to save us, right? So I gotta do whatever I gotta do. Like, we all know about. I gotta do what I gotta do. Everybody's been there, right? We're like, I gotta do what I gotta do what I gotta do. It is what it is, right? And that is that's how it breaks down, right? Like, he gets past all the every other step, because that's the trap, right? So the rules are getting in the way. The Jedi don't understand, like, I can control this. That's all he does. He's messing with the dark side force. Like, I can control this, right? And that's how you fall, because it feeds on your certainty. That's what it gives you. It gives you that certainty, that conviction that you're right. And it's easier to justify, like, it's increasingly bad actions, because you think that you're using the dark side of the force, but the dark side of the force is using you. That's where it really, like, that's what you have to fundamentally accept about the dark side of the force. And it lets us get in. These are two people who have been in the dark side of the force and got out of the dark side of the force. So this is an important thing to understand, that you can get in. Like, we're used to seeing people going from the force, the regular side of the force, I guess where we all are, right? The regular force, over to the dark side of the force, right? We've seen that, but people coming back and tell you some insight on how the dark side of the Force actually uses you, like the psychology of what it's actually doing to you, while it's also draining you as well. Then the other big point is, they proved Dooku right, like in a big way. Obviously, Dooku's been spreading this message about the moral decline of the Jedi, right? And it's true. And it's 100% on display in this book, because the Jedi have descended to the point that they're like ordering assassinations. Like, they do that. They order assassinations. They, what else did they do? I think that was it, but that was enough. They did that quite a few times. Oh, but like, no jury trials. Like, they're tripping. Like, that's beyond the scope of what the Jedi are supposed to be. But yet that's where they are with it. So that's something that people do point out. Like, there is a point here of that. If we talk about, is the Jedi crossing the line? Yeah, they are. Like, they're at the point where the ends justifies the means. So they're in morally the territory that, Dooku was saying that they were, that they're corrupted. And they're right. Like, the Jedi being at war, the Sith, planned against this. They attacked their strategic point, which was like the lofty aspirations that you set up for yourself, right? That became a box, and then when you got to do what you got to do, now you're a hypocrite, and it makes fractures within your own organization, and that's what we got out of this. Now, one of the other like most interesting parts was, there is a good interaction with Dooku and Sidious, right? Like, or should I say, Lord Sidious and Darth Tyrannus, right? Darth Tyrannus, who is of course Dooku, right? That's his code name right there, slide name right there. And Voss has kind of forced a situation where he wants to be revealed to Sidious, because he wants to like what they're obviously talking about is they're gonna challenge Sidious. Like, Dooku and Voss are like, yeah, we're gonna challenge Sidious and we're gonna run the galaxy, right? But so Voss has him leverage, and Sidious is kind of dismissive of it, but then he saves him. But if we look at how he was speaking to him, the tone, like how he was moving with him, you would know that he was going to get you set up to get killed by Anakin, like right after that, which is what happened. Like right after that, like remember, like just run the tape, like Anakin gets him and he was already plotting on replacing Dooku with Anakin. Like I think this is the point where he really got serious, because you can see it, like when he's talking to him, like, man, he's mad annoyed, and that's as real as it really gets with like Sidious, man. Like when he's like, yeah, I guess it's what you had to do. When he starts talking to you like that and kind of looking into it the side eye, when he has his hood down, it's kind of like, yeah, I guess you had to do that. When he starts talking to you like that, like, you done already, man. And so if my man Dooku had been reading the tea leaves, he would have known that, like, yeah, Darth Sidious getting ready to move on from you, man. I would watch my back at every single turn. But obviously, like, you can't tell Sidious nothing. And I can't even say I was upset when you got killed. I was glad when you cut your hands off, and then you were finally like, uh-oh, and you finally got what you had coming. But overall, like, a great book. Like I said, it'll take you through some real, like, important moments about what's going on here. And like Sidious, man, I gotta say, man, like, you violate the rule of two like it ain't nothing, man. Like, you stay violating the rule of two, and you're always plotting to replace your apprentice, because you don't ever want to give it up and get replaced. They're supposed to replace the master, not fight each other to death so you can just go out and get a new one. Like, that's not how it's supposed to work, and that's what you're using it for. So there's a lot of good Jedi in there. We get some insights into Mace Windu, and here's the thing, like, man, I gotta talk about this. Like, Mace Windu, who is my man, okay? Mace Windu, who is my man. Like, Mace Windu is the dude, right? Okay? Like, I love Mace Windu and all, but I got to talk about Mace, right? I got to talk about Mace because, like, you're mad warmongery, right? He is, man. Like, I hate to say it, but Mace Windu, throughout this, he's kind of pushing war. Like, you're a hardliner, and war and like an assassination is like your method, like, period, right? He's ready for it. So that's a side of Mace that I think is also like in the larger scheme. I kind of like to look at. I kind of like to kind of get a vibe. But overall, excellent book. I felt like I got quite a bit of knowledge out of going through this book, and kind of makes the story a little more well rounded for me. I know that I'm going into like Wonder Woman's. I think it's War. I can't remember the name. I'll hit you guys with it, but it's a great like step into the Wonder Woman mythology and stuff. So have some thoughts. If you have some questions about this, my read on this great book, hit up in the comments. As always, ask you hit that like and subscribe, and I'll be here to talk more mythology and storytelling with you guys.